Hello everybody, and welcome back to yet another video, and to another episode of My Thoughts, the series where I give my thoughts on the latest Cars news. Today I'm very excited, because today we're going to be breaking down the entire 2025 Cars Diecast checklist poster, which recently released. As I'm sure many of you know, I've been doing Guest Host Week on my channel for the last week and a half. That's a special event that I do every year when I'm on spring break from school, where I take a break from YouTube and a bunch of other Cars channels make special videos for my channel. I absolutely love doing it every year. I love doing it this year, but of course, right in the middle of Guest Host Week this year, this poster dropped, and as soon as I saw it, I knew the first video I had to do when I got back was one covering the poster. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that I was on break when this poster dropped, because, you know, it's about a week old now. It gave me some time for my thoughts to settle a bit, and to give me some more firm opinions on everything. So, without further ado, we're going to break this down. If you follow Cars News, I'm sure you already knew of a lot of these items. I'm sure you've already seen this poster for the last week, but, you know, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, not all that many items that we didn't already know about announced on the poster here. A lot of these are cars that I've already talked about on the channel. A lot of them are ones we've already seen, but regardless, we're going to go right through, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the entire 2025 mainline. So, let's begin. Of course, we start off here with Cars 1 with just some basic items. McQueen, Mater, this is the long tow hook Mater, which I recently saw they actually updated his tow hook, so it's still long, but it's a bit more hook-shaped. A great update, especially if this is going to be the main Mater moving forward. Happy to see them kind of making that hook look a bit better. Got some Piston Cup racers with Chuck and Billy. Not much to say about those. I know a lot of people excited for them. The racers already had, so I'm kind of indifferent. We got Pit Crew Sarge. I actually recently picked up Pit Crew Sarge. I found him over the weekend, or I found him a few days back while I was on my break. Very excited to get him. This is a car that I'm very happy to see return in 2025. Honestly, in general, and if you watch my channel, you've heard me say this before, I think 2025 has one of the best re-release lineups in the history of the Cars Diecast line. The cars that came back this year are some absolutely incredible choices. Pit Crew Sarge is a pretty good one. He's been released twice in the past. He is pretty cheap online. While I think he's a great re-release, they honestly only get better from here. I will say, we knew about pretty much all the really good re-releases before this poster dropped. So, seeing it was a little underwhelming for me. I was hoping to get some more good re-releases, but the ones we have are just so solid. Pit Crew member Sarge, happy to finally add it to my collection. Happy to see some more Pit Crew cars from McQueen's Pit Crew. I was hoping we'd get some more this year, but we just got him and Mater with Sign, who was also out last year. Sally, Sheriff, Lightning Ramon. Oh, sorry, we also got Lightning Ramon. Oh wait, and we also got Flo with Trey, who's kind of a pit crew car sometimes. So a good McQueen's pit crew theme going here. They completely slipped my mind, guys. I'm so sorry. Can you tell I've been off for a week and a half? Lightning Ramon is an item I'm very excited to have back. He has a really great Thailand update. And while I would prefer he wasn't still metallic, some early prototype images for him appeared to be flat red, matching his hydraulic variant from 2015. It seems the final release is kind of shiny. I'm definitely going to pick it up because it still is a good update with a brand new face. I always love when they go back and fix old Ramones. This one is another highlight re-release to me, even though it's a card that I already had. Floyd Mulvihill, Nicky B is another really great re-release. Happy to see him get his first ever single release after his initial 2-pack in 2020. Happy to see him back. You got the King, Claude Scruggs, and Eugene Carbureski. This is one of the big ones, of course, as 2025 finally wraps up all the Cars 1 Piston Cup racers that needed re-releases other than the two they can't legally re-release. Eugene, very happy to see him. After we got no new Piston Cup racer re-releases last year, I'm very happy and honestly kind of surprised to see all three of the ones we needed left released here in 1 year. As somebody who only really started collecting Cars 1 Piston Cup racers after Cars 3 came out, I've been able to fully build my collection of them because Mattel's done such a great job re-releasing them in the past few years, allowing collectors to get a full set. And Eugene and Ryan and Ernie, who of course is already out, Ernie, it's so great to have them all in one year. I finally get to complete my Cars 1 Piston Cup Racer collection, and I'm sure a lot of other people get to do that as well this year. Again, other than the Apple car and Dale Earnhardt if you don't have him. Another great re-release, My Name Is Not Chuck with Cart. Oh my gosh, so cool to get him back as a single. It's been 10 years. 2015 was his last release. I believe this is the one with the tool gun, so the image here is an error, unfortunately. That's just a regular Not Chuck. I've seen him in stores. So great to have him back. Again, another insanely solid re-release. Mario Andretti is alright. He's around every few years. Good to see him again, I guess. I think we last saw him in 2023, so probably would have preferred a larger gap. But who knows, maybe he's a super popular character, and that's why, I don't know, I mean, he is based on a real guy. We then have Daryl Cartrip, another item that I'm very, very happy to see come back this year. I've seen him in stores several times, looking super cool and clean with his shiny paint, with his Thailand variant. Honestly, one day I may pick up a Thailand Daryl Cartrip, I think. They just look so nice, and mine is the, original Daryl from 2007. There is a problem with his re-release, though. You may have noticed this. There's no Bob Cutlass in 2025. There's only Daryl, and I think that is insanely strange and also insanely disappointing. The last few years, I felt like sometimes they'll just re-release random cars with no other items associated with them, like Mater with Sign last year, who was the only car, from McQueen's Pit Crew released, or this year with Nikki B, who's the only flashback car from the first movie. But having Daryl without Bob is so strange to me. I think it's just a bad decision. I think it's kind of a dumb decision. Why do one commentator and not the other? I just don't get it. Now, Bob Cutlass honestly is in kind of a weird situation right now, right? Where he has this updated Cars 3 variant, but not an updated Cars 1 variant, so maybe they didn't know which one to release, I don't know. But back in 2021, I'm pretty sure they re-released Daryl as a Cars 1 item, and then they re-released the Cars 3 Bob as a Cars 3 item. But as you can see here, he's not in the Cars 3 section, and honestly, I think that's a major disappointment. So strange to have one and not the other. Yeah, I just, why do one without the other? It's that simple. I don't get why Bob isn't here. We got regular old Fillmore and Luigi and Guido. Ryan Shields, of course, one of the other Piston Cup racers we were missing. Kind of. Honestly, I'm shocked that Ryan came back. Genuinely. This seems to very clearly be a response to fans asking for his return. You see, earlier on I mentioned Mattel re-releasing all the Cars 1 Piston Cup cars after the release of Cars 3. They already did Ryan. Back in 2018, he was one of the first ones to get re-released. And while technically he doesn't have a Thailand variant, this will be his first time made in Thailand, he has been re-released after Cars 3, just like all the other racers. The problem was he never hit the US, so a lot of American collectors didn't get him, and because he was only released internationally, his 2018 release became pretty rare. He was in the same wave as Adam Park, Carl Clutchin, and those infamous 2 Racing Center trainees who are stupidly expensive online if you ever try to look for them. That was a really rare case that only hit very specific select areas of the world, so very few people got their hands on that Ryan re-release, and for years collectors have been clamoring for him to make a comeback. I'm surprised to see that they listened and re-released him. I was really only expecting Ernie and Eugene this year, but hey, I'll take Ryan as well. Something is up here, if you couldn't already tell. His prototype image is new here, and it's pretty bad. It's this really dark color that's completely incorrect, but have no fear, this is just a prototype image, and some in-hand images of Ryan have since leaked, and they do have that correct color scheme. So, don't worry, if you saw this and were concerned, this isn't what the final release will look like. It's just a weird prototype image. For some reason, we got Hydraulic Ramon. I'm kind of getting tired of how often they re-release Hydraulic Ramon. Same with Dave Alternators here. Same with Donna Pitts. Why is Donna Pitts re-released so often? I don't get it. We then have Flo with Trey. Unfortunately, here she's just labeled as Flo. But another thing I've seen recently, actually, there was a running change with her re-release, which now does properly label her as Flow with Trey, which I think is really, really great. Flow with Trey is actually the only Flow release in the main line, which is interesting. If you want regular Flow, you're going to have to turn to the multi-packs. And that is an interesting thing that I'll talk about more in just a minute. Lightning McQueen with Rusty's sign is back again. Another item they just keep re-releasing. I think he's honestly a pretty popular one. I know that a lot of collectors don't really like him because it's a normal McQueen with just a plastic piece in front of him. But he's been re-released so many times over the last few years. I remember when I reviewed him, it was crazy popular for some reason, and I was very confused. I think he's just a popular item that kids must love because they just keep bringing him back. JW is an item I'm very, very happy to see back for 2025. He's another one that used to be re-released like all the time, but now it's been almost 10 years since we last saw him. He, of course, is the Piston Cup fan that sits next to me and Tia. So happy to see him return. There we got Doc. Dexter Hoover with Green Flag, another item that's getting pretty tiring. Please just re-release one of the other flag colors. Can we do the yellow flag? The yellow flag hasn't been out since like 2008. So please, Mattel made a sign back from 2024. His re-release this year makes much more sense than his release last year since they're doing a whole McQueen's Pit Crew thing. And last year they didn't. It was just him. So, you know, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Last year had really weak re-releases, so if you remove Mater with Sign, the re-releases last year got even worse. But I feel like he fits better this year than last year. Masha Elswrench is our one new release from the movies, and much like Mandy Freighter last year, she is an uncancelled crew chief from the first Cars movie. Nice to see that we're getting more than one of these. Hopefully the trend continues and we get the Transberry Juice crew chief we were supposed to get back in 2018, 2019. Masha's a pretty nice item. I like how she looked. I like how she looks a lot better than the original leak from 2019. I think she turned out pretty good here. I'm mostly excited for that car model. I think this is going to be really great for customs because a lot of crew chiefs in the movie use this mold. It's going to be great for the future. This is actually the correct mold that Chief RPM is supposed to be, so I'm really hoping that one day they reuse this mold to make Chief RPM. If not, I'm sure customizers will have a field day with it. Of course, the big problem with Masha, if you haven't already seen, is that for some insanely stupid reason, her card back artwork is a Photoshop of Mandy's, which is a Photoshop of JW, you know, a pickup truck. And it looks so bad and so dumb. It's pretty disappointing. Yeah, but it is pretty funny. Anyway, we have Christina Wieland, another really great one. I recently saw her re-release in the store the other day when I picked up Pit Crew Sarge. She, of course, is the other fan that sits next to me and Tia. We got RPM here, Ernie Gearson, who I'm sure a lot of us who wanted to get him have already gotten our hands on him at this point. One of the big, substantial re-releases of 2025, and really the first major one to come out. One of those final missing Piston Cup racers. Jonathan Wrenchworth's another car that just keeps coming out for some reason. And then, another one of my personal favorite re-releases for this year, Lightning McQueen with Shovel. Now, a lot of people, myself included, were hoping that they updated the Shovel. For those of you who don't know, in the movie the Shovel's yellow, but the diecast has always had a gray one. And when there's a car with a big error like this, a lot of people hope that their first Thailand release will correct that. Unfortunately, they haven't, but I don't mind. I still think this item looks really great, and I honestly cannot wait to pick it up. This is a McQueen that's been missing from my collection for many, many years now, and I'm very happy to add him. Then there's Slim Hood. Slim Hood is a character from the Cars 3 Doc flashbacks. They accidentally put him in the Cars 1 section on the card backs, and now on the poster. I don't know. Guys, I don't know how this keeps happening. Anyway, we then move on to Cars 2 with Grem, Otis, and Acer. We then move on from Cars 2. Yeah, okay. Elephant in the room here. There are 3 items from Cars 2, and that's kind of awful. In fact, there are 3 items from Cars 2, and there are only 7 from Cars 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 from Cars 3. Cars 3 does have a few more items in the chew packs, But in terms of singles, this is an insanely weak showing. Look at how many cars there are from the first movie. And then there are 3 from 2 and 7 from 3. Cars 2 we're kind of used to. We know Cars 2 is the least popular of the Cars movies, and a lot of years, especially recent years, it hasn't had the best showing. 3 Cars is by far the worst showing it's ever had. In fact, the worst showing I think any movie has ever had in the Cars Diecast line since Cars 2 came out. Because that year there were no releases from the first movie at all. This is disappointing to me. But I'm used to Cars 2 getting the short end of the stick. Maybe not this bad, but I'm used to it. I can kind of give them a pass, honestly, for Cars 2 not having that many releases these last 2 years, because they're doing the GRC, which is all Cars 2 themed except for Jackson and Cruz, all themed around Cars 2 racers, and I understand that they're at a point now where they don't like including both the regular variant and a different variant in the main line. If you've noticed, that's kind of a trend going on recently. Pit Crew Sarge and Flow with Trey are both in the main line and not their regular variants. It's a practice that I honestly don't mind because it doesn't really clog up the main line with the exact same items. It feels to me like that's what they're doing. You know, they're not re-releasing the regular World Grand Prix racers because, well, we got most of them down here. That's something that I don't mind being done, especially because the regular variants are being sold in 5-packs. And I want to take a moment to praise the 5-packs recently, which I feel like Mattel is finally using correctly for the first time in a very long time. For the last few years, 5-packs have been insanely underwhelming, haven't had any new releases, they've been really lame. But in these last 2 years, they've really started picking up the slack and filling the multi-packs with items that aren't out in the main line. For the first time ever, if somebody tells me, hey, Sarge isn't in the main line this year, I can tell them, check the 5-pack. Like, consistently with several characters. Oh, Flo isn't out. You could get her in the 5-pack. The regular World Grand Prix racers aren't out. Well, several of them are out in a 5-pack. Same with Cars 2 McQueen, who is shockingly absent here. You could pick him up in a 5-pack. It feels to me like they are finally using those 5-packs properly, putting out items that are not available in the main line in the 5-packs. It feels like there's finally synergy between the two of them. Even Lizzie. Lizzie is a biannual release. We get her every other year. She's not in the main line this year. She's in a 5-pack. It feels like they're finally working together. The only downside is I know there are some people in the world, some places, that don't get in 5-packs, which is unfortunate, of course. But I do appreciate it here on my end. I do appreciate that kind of synergy between those two things. And why not, right? If something's not in the main line, why not put it in the 5-pack? I think it makes the year come together and work really, really well. A lot of the characters missing here are out in multi-packs, and I really appreciate that. Now, while we only have 3 Cars 2 releases, they're all pretty good ones, other than Otis, who, like several cars this year, just keeps getting re-released, and I don't find it necessary. But Grem and Acer, I mean, come on. They did 3 Cars 2 releases, but 2 of them are probably the most asked for re-releases of all time. People have been begging for Grem and Acer for years. Guys, would you believe me if I told you it's been 10 years since regular Acer came out, and regular Grem hasn't been out since 2012, when Cars 2 first released? Yes, there are only 3 Cars 2 releases this year, but they're still consistently giving us cars that everyone's been asking for, and that's something that I really, really appreciate. This year tells me that Mattel is listening to what people ask for, and to that I say, Mattel, please make Blue Gremlin with headset. We're doing lemons again. Please. I'm kidding. Kind of. But I really appreciate Grem and Acer being back. You know, they only did 3 Cars 2 releases, but they still gave us incredibly solid ones. It's like last year when they only did 5 or 6 Cars 2 items, and then one of them was just casually Union Jack Ramone, who hadn't been out since a 2012 multi-pack. They're doing a pretty good job with these re-releases, even if Cars 2 isn't getting all that many items. Okay, then we move on to Cars 3, which honestly also has a pretty disappointing showing. Never did I ever think I'd see the day where Cars 3 only had 7 releases. Like, that's crazy. There are only 7 of them. Much like with Cars 2, and the first movie. A lot of significant missing releases here can be found in multi-packs. Rusty's Cruise is out this year, but you could get Dinoco Cruise in a 5-pack, and you could also get regular Cruise in a 5-pack. Another one of the most asked for re-releases. But other than that, we have pretty generic ones. We got Jackson. Oh, we have my low battery warning. Goodbye. We got Jackson. We have Cam Spinner, who I'm getting really tired of seeing. Please pick other next gens, Mattel. It feels like it's the same ones every year. I own all the next gens, and I just get tired because it's frustrating for people that don't have all of them. Stop making the same ones again and again. We have Rusty's McQueen, Jodon Jackson, who's one of my least favorite legend racers, but it's fine to see him back. I don't really mind. I'm not a big fan of just how many legend racers we've gotten, but it is good to see some of the more obscure ones from back in 2021 getting re-released. Rusty's McQueen is back, not much to say there. But easily the highlight for Cars 3 re-releases this year are these two right here, Fishtail and High Impact. Fishtail is an item that I didn't realize hasn't been out since like 2018, so he is a pretty highly anticipated re-release, but few re-releases this year are more highly anticipated than High Impact, who is an insanely rare item. She was first released in a 2017 2-pack in a wave that barely hit stores, and then she got re-released as a 2018 single in a wave that once again barely hit stores. I was able to get her online. I got her for Christmas one year for a pretty good price, but then like right after that she absolutely skyrocketed and has been sitting at like roughly $100 for the past 5 years or so. High Impact coming back is another highlight of the year, and more proof that while Cars 2 and 3 don't have that many re-releases this year, or that many releases in general, they do have some really, really good ones. We then move into Cars on the Road, where we once again have a shockingly low amount of releases. Now, this year has less diecast than usual, and most of them, of course, are part of the new Race and Rescue line. But it's just crazy to me to see the line be absolutely dominated by Cars on the Road the last few years, and then have just a smaller showing for it. Such a smaller showing for it. Honestly, I think shrinking down the on the road section is a step in the right direction, but maybe only one new release from on the road isn't a step in the right direction. Now, I've heard, apparently, there have been some shakeups within the Cars Diecast team. I've been told that, I've heard from a few sources now, apparently the Cars Diecast team, Mattel tasked part of them with making new Thomas and Friends merchandise. For those of you who don't follow Thomas stuff, which I don't super closely, but I do kind of, they're making a ton of really great Thomas merchandise based on pre-All Engines Go Thomas, which is really, really cool to see. This year, they're bringing it back, and apparently those were designed by the Cars team, so shout out to them. That's super cool. But the Cars team having their time kind of divided may explain why the last few years didn't have all that many diecast releases compared to what we're used to, and maybe that explains the influx of expanded universe items. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think that is a good theory for kind of the lower amount of releases the past few years. So hopefully, I have heard, I think that the team is kind of coming back together, or maybe they've hired new people, something along those lines. Again, I'm not 100%, but from what I've heard, should probably be in good hands in the future regarding the team. But I think that's pretty cool. Mattel knows the Cars team does good work, and they sent them off to fix a far more struggling franchise. Anyway, on the road re-releases are on the road re-releases. I don't have much to say. We've seen them all within the last few years. A lot of them are re-releases of 2024 items. President Mater, Margaret, Logan here, Cave Mater, Chris and Barney. Then some other items. Cryptid Buster McQueen. This is Road Trip Mater for the record. Noriyuki, who I'm pretty sure I could still find his 2022 release in my stores if I looked hard enough. Cave McQueen, Niall, Road Trip McQueen. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, on the road, I feel like no matter what, people are going to be critical of the re-releases, myself included, because we've gotten so many over the last few years, and also, like, how do I explain this? Cars on the Road is 3 years old, right? So any re-releases are going to look like pretty boring re-releases. There's not a single item here where I wouldn't say, oh, didn't we just see that? Because they're all recent items. It's a perfectly fine selection. I'm happy that some of the harder to find items for 2024 came back, like Margaret, Barney, and Logan, because 2024 distribution was so bad. I know Mattel didn't know it would be super bad. At least in the US, it was terrible for most of last year. I know Mattel didn't know that when planning this, but in hindsight, that really ended up helping me out. I was able to pick up Margaret, Logan, and Barney, who I missed last year. Of course, we also have Jonathan here, and her very unfortunate mistake name, who is shockingly the only new on-the-road release for the year. She's a pretty nice item. I'm happy to see them complete a set, that being the crew members for B-Movie. I really don't have all that much to say regarding her. I've talked about her at length before, and I believe she's hitting stores now, so hopefully I could get a review on her out soon. Pretty nice looking item. It's crazy to me that we have one new on-the-road release this year. That's not how I'd handle things. You know, I have been saying for a long time that I wanted less on-the-road items in 2025, but I was expecting more than just one. I mean, this year is good, but we still just have one movie release. Now we have one on-the-road release. Where is she? There she is. Once again, very heavy focus on the expanded universe. And while I don't mind, I do hope we get back to having more movie releases soon. We then move into Cars Tunes, which has a pretty decent showing this year. A combination of items from 2023-24 and Kyandy and Cho, who are back for 2025. Very exciting to see them again. Ideally, I would prefer they move away from Tokyo Mater and hit some other Cars Tunes. But for the time being, Kyandy and Cho being back, super nice to see. Although there is something missing, which is very disappointing. It was rumored that Bye Bye Car would be returning for 2025. And as you can see, there is no Bye Bye Car on this poster. Excuse me while I plug my laptop back in. Yeah, there we go. There's no Bye Bye Car this year. I guess it was a case where Mattel planned her early on and scrapped her, or maybe the rumors were just incorrect. It's a real shame. That's such a rare item. It's such a funny one to bring back. It's really unfortunate. I guess it could be a case where Mattel forgot to put her on the poster, but I think honestly, like we've seen this before, you know, a lot of times rumors don't pan out. Speaking of rumors that don't pan out, another rumor that didn't pan out were the other GRC racers that were supposed to come out this year. Jeff, Lewis, and Rip. No Nigel rumor ever surfaced. But, you know, for a while we'd seen Walmart listings for other GRC racers. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I think it's weird to bring back the GRC this year and not do new items for it. It feels honestly kind of pointless. It feels like it's just taking up space now. But I will say, a lot of the GRC cars were very hard to find here in the US because of those bad distribution issues. So just like the on-the-road cars, while it wasn't intentional, all these items being re-released actually really helps me. I ended 2024 with my only GRC cars being McQueen, Francesco, and the 2-pack of Jackson and Miguel. And I have been able to find in 2025 Carla and Raul, thanks to that new 2-pack of him and Miguel. So, I mean, I'm honestly not going to complain. I'm still missing Max and Cruz. They're two of the rarer, harder to find items in the line, and I'm happy that they are coming back. Would have preferred they added those new racers. But again, it seems like they were probably planned early on and canceled. But hey, considering the GRC return for 2025, maybe we could get a few more in 2026. The interesting thing is it seems that they're keeping this line kind of open, you know, to expand on in the future if they'd like to. I wouldn't like to see the GRC for a third year. I think it's already kind of overstaying its welcome a bit here. But if next year they do like what they do with Tokyo Mater and just release like 3 and make them, or 4 and make them be the missing racers, I'd really appreciate it. But for now, unfortunately, that's not happening. And now we move into kind of the meat and potatoes of the year. Yes, this late into the video. Race and Rescue is the big new line for the 2025 Cars Diecast line. And let me tell you, I am insanely impressed by it. This line has 18 new releases, and I think all of them are pretty stellar. This honestly might be one of my favorite expanded universe lines of all time. It is insanely clever and well put together, just like the GRC was. I'm not the biggest fan of having these expanded universe lines in the main line, but when they're this good, I genuinely cannot complain. So let's go through these one by one. McQueen, Mater, and Chick, I've already spoken about on the channel. They all look pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of the McQueen design. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of either of the McQueen designs, but Mater is really, really cool. I absolutely love that they gave him a bigger, more complex towing assembly. I would have preferred he weren't. Oh man, my charger fell out. Ty talks about 2025 poster while complaining about charging his laptop. 2025 colorized. I've seen in-person photos of this Mater because he was on display at Toy Fair, and he looks much better than this image does. I'm a big fan of this Mater. I like him a lot more than I expected I would, and I like how they based him on more of a realistic utility, fire tow truck, rescue tow truck. I was expecting something very similar to Rescue Squad Mater. I like that they went a lot more realistic with the approach. Now, the cool thing about Race and Rescue is that it features both race cars and rescue cars. It's about a rally race in Radiator Springs, so we have a wide variety of racers, and I absolutely love their selections. Guys, they picked racers from all 3 Cars movies. That is insanely cool. That's something that's never happened before in an expanded universe line. So we have Chick Hicks from the first Cars, who of course is acting as the villain of the line. It's a very complex expanded universe line, I think. There's quite a bit of story going on here with the race element and the rescue element and all that. And while I think it's insanely clever, and I love that there's a story built in that's a bit more complex than usual, I just wish there was a description of that story on the back of the packaging. We know we're getting a book, and I'm sure the Cars YouTube will probably do some fun little videos with it like they did for the GRC, but I feel kind of bad for kids that might be buying cars, but are a bit out of the loop of what's going on. I feel like it could be a bit confusing, combining these into one story. One of my favorite details about the line is that the Race and Rescue logo is also used as the Race Rally logo, which is just so cool and so clever. But again, I feel like the storyline there should be explained on the box. I appreciate having a more complex story than usual, but I mean, usually the story is just, they are racing. Here, it's a bit deeper than that, and I feel like since it is a toy line exclusive thing, and most people won't know about the book, or know about whatever inevitable videos or comics they make, I just wish they explained it a bit more. But still, nice to see Chick. Love seeing him still be a petty jerk almost 20 years after he lost the Piston Cup. And then we have a miracle. Folks, in 2025, there's a new Cal Weathers. There's a new Cal Weathers. They did it. My boy is back. It's been so long. When was the last time we got a new Cal? Like 2019, 2020? They made a new Cal Weathers, guys. They did it. It's Race Rally Cal Weathers. I don't even think it looks all that good. It's probably one of the weaker Race Rally cards, but it's a new Cal. Oh, I'm so happy. For those of you who don't know, Cal has been one of my favorite Cars characters. He probably is my favorite Cars character. I don't know why I like him so much. He's kind of an obscure character. I always love obscure characters. He's kind of down on his luck. Kind of an unsung hero. I love Cal. One of my favorite Cars characters. I'm so excited he's back, and I'm sure a lot of people will be. Of course, one of the most heavily requested things for the Cars Diecast line right now is for those Cars 3 veteran racers to return, and this is technically one of them. Technically, I know some people would be mad that I said that, but technically this is one of them. Hopefully we get more soon, but I'm just so happy to have a new Cal, and again, I absolutely adore the concept of combining racers from all the different groups we've seen. It feels like such a love letter to the fan base, and it's so fun and clever. Another detail I like is these are actually all American racers, which makes sense. They could have easily pulled a World Grand Prix car from another country, but no, they pulled in Jeff, which makes sense. It's a rally race in Radiator Springs. I like that it's a bit more closer together. It's not this big international thing like the GRC was. Anyway, we then move on to Red, whose appearance here might be a bit alarming to some of you guys. Unfortunately, the deluxe line is still gone in 2025, and Red here, whose only release is in the Race and Rescue line, is a single. Red has been shrunken down. They shrunk Red for the Race and Rescue line. I don't know how much they shrunk him. He was at Toy Fair, and it didn't seem to be too bad. He'll probably be close in scale to... I don't want to say the 2006 Red. I think he'll probably be close in scale to that plastic Red that we got in the Courthouse playset. That was kind of a middle ground between the two Reds. Only time will tell. It's going to be really weird and awkward to see Red as a single. I know we're still not doing deluxes, but I wish they had just done what they've done for the last few years and put him in a 2-pack with the Stanley statue. Again, I thought that was really clever. And that 2-pack isn't back this year, which I'm really not a fan of. Unless he's in some sort of online exclusive multi-pack, there will be no way to get a regular Red in 2025. I'm sure he'll look good. I'm not really going to complain about the size of these items too much. I'm sure a lot of people will probably pick up where I left off with that and have more to say. I don't really mind. They're doing what they have to do right now. I'd prefer if the larger items were in 2-packs, but I think it'll be kind of fun having this new variant of Red regardless. We've got Cruz here, who I'm not the biggest fan of. Both Cruz and Jackson feel far too derivative of their previous GRC variants. Like, if the GRC variants of them didn't exist, it would probably be cooler. I'm sure she'll look good in person, but especially that hood being colored in, I wish they didn't do that, because it just looks too reminiscent of the GRC. It's a fine release. These rally race cars are pretty hit or miss for me. But, you know, I think they're alright. Sarge I've talked about in depth in a previous My Thoughts video. Like to see that Sarge is included here. Happy to see him. Not a big fan of the giant logo on his roof, but the rest of him is pretty good. Luigi and Guido. Guido is the highlight of the year for me. This is my favorite thing, potentially ever, in the history of my life. Guido, with his little firefighter hat, is so funny. It's adorable. I love it so much. Luigi's kind of on the weaker side. I think this was just a weird choice. Most of these cars have new molds with accessories and stuff. For Luigi, they decided to reuse the mold of Luigi with checkered flag and race start Luigi to make this variant of him with the warning flag. And while I appreciate the effort on Luigi's part, his giant smile from those other variants, from him starting the race, is just not fitting here. I'm not a big fan of this. I appreciate reusing the model of a more obscure Luigi variant, but he just seems a bit too happy to be warning people of oncoming danger. Guido, though, I'd give my life for Race and Rescue Guido. That's a bit intense. I love Race and Rescue Guido very dearly. He's my favorite thing ever. But now we move into probably one of my other favorite things about this line. Guys, this is Kathy Copter. So, a while back, rumors started to circulate that Race and Rescue would feature some other characters that weren't Radiator Springs cars, and people mainly assumed they were original characters. I didn't really believe that they'd be making up original characters for this line, and I just assumed they were Radiator Springs cars that we didn't see yet, you know? Well, we were kind of both wrong, because they're not original characters, but they're not Radiator Springs variants. Instead, they pulled some miscellaneous background Cars characters that appropriately fit the Race and Rescue theme and plucked them into the line. When I first saw this, it was a very low-quality image just on my phone. I didn't see the names yet. I was like, oh, cool. They're doing an ambulance. They're doing a helicopter. They're doing a fire truck that's a repaint of Adam Rodriguez. And I absolutely flipped out when I realized, no, these aren't new characters. These are variants of pre-existing characters. And guys, I don't know how this is going to go over. I don't know. But I'm so excited by this. I absolutely love weird, obscure, niche Cars Diecast variants of just the most random characters. Like, we were supposed to get a Glow Racer Ray Reverham, and we didn't. Maybe we still will, I don't know. But I would have eaten that up, guys. I love when background Cars characters get new variants that everyone will forget about in a year. And Kathy Copter getting a new variant is right up my alley. I will say, I wish it wasn't her, and I know that's kind of dumb to say. She looks great, really, really solid design, but I think they honestly mainly chose her because she was red. Kathy being here makes sense at first glance, but then you remember, in universe, Kathy's a reporter. I think ideally they should have made this a variant of one of the rescue squad helicopters, but the problem with that is that the rescue squad helicopters don't have a name. They're not established characters. Kathy is. She speaks in the movie. She has one line, but still. So to that, my other suggestion would be maybe this should have been the Dynaco helicopter? Maybe? Maybe you could work in a lore reason. I mean, Cal and Cruz are both racing. You could have done Rotor Turbowski if you think he's too big. I mean, I'm sure you probably could have fit his deluxe in a single, quite frankly. But you could have made the variant of him based on his original smaller mold, so he could fit in a single easier. I honestly think that would have made a bit more sense. I think I prefer Kathy's inclusion. I just like her being there. I think she has a really good design. I appreciate another female character being on the team as well. I appreciate Kathy Copter, super obscure character, getting a new variant. It's just, from a kind of story perspective, her inclusion is a bit odd, unless maybe she's reporting on it. I don't know. Sally's pretty funny. If you saw my tier list, my sister had some beef with Race and Rescue Sally, and I completely get it. I appreciate what they're going for here. I like to see a new Sally. I like to see a Sally with a new mold. She's got some new roof rack stuff going on. And I like to see that they incorporated who Sally is into this variant. And by who Sally is, I mean they gave cones to her. I like the concept of Sally putting up safety cones. I like that the characters in the rescue team fit the personality. They're not just repaints. I love the Tomica Fire and Rescue line, which is another very popular Fire and Rescue Cars line. The Mini Adventures also did a sort of Fire and Rescue line. But this line, I feel really thought out each of the characters as characters a bit more. Luigi has the flag, and while I'm not a big fan of it, it kind of fits him. Sally is putting up cones, and I really appreciate that. It's very in character for her. Another thing I like, and this is going to be a really weird point, but I really appreciate who wasn't included. And I know that sounds kind of dumb, but look at this line. Some of the Radiator Springs cars are not present, and I think the ones they chose to not be there were pretty clever. Fillmore isn't present. Fillmore is a pacifist, Maybe he didn't want to get his wheels dirty. Maybe he didn't want to engage in an intense situation. Ramon and Flo wouldn't really make all that sense. But the cars we did get make sense, I think. Mater, he's a tow truck. Sarge was in the military. Sheriff is a police car. Red is a fire truck. McQueen is obviously kind of a stretch. Sally's also a bit of a stretch as well. Guido's a forklift. He has arms. He's small. He could fit in places. McQueen and Sally are both a bit of a stretch, but, they're main characters. Their incorporation is perfectly fine, and they did find a way for Sally to fit in. So I gotta say, I do appreciate the characters they didn't include. I think they thought it through. It is a real shame we're not getting a Race and Rescue Ramon. I feel like this is the only opportunity I can ever think of where Mattel had an obvious chance to make a brand new Ramon and didn't. But, again, I think it works. I think they were clever with their choices. Anyway, the next one is gonna, people are gonna flip out. People already have flipped out, and I just wasn't aware. This is Morgan Martins, guys. Remember Morgan Martins? Ambulance from Cars 3, who I'm pretty sure was, almost practically not in the movie. Morgan Martins released back in 2017 as a Super Chase, and he's getting a variant and an expanded universe fire and rescue line. Do you see why I love this toy line? Do you see why I love the Race and Rescue series? That's crazy! That's so cool! A lot of people are going to pick this up to have a version of Morgan in their collection. Unfortunately, he's also going to be a bit smaller. We don't know how much smaller. And it is going to be weird to see a sized down ambulance. But I honestly don't think it'll look all that bad, And with Morgan, he's such an obscure character, you could easily pass this off as a different, smaller ambulance. Will a car be able to realistically fit in him? No, but there's really never been an ambulance in the Cars Diecast line where that looks like that would work, other than that plastic Rescue Squad ambulance where the doors actually opened, which was bigger than usual. Good to see you, Morgan. Crazy that you're here. Jeff, I'm happy to see Jeff. I'll give you that. I think he looks alright. Like a lot of these race rally cars, there's not all that much different with him. I really, really, really appreciate him getting a brand new variant. I love the silver. I love that they worked the navy blue color scheme into the blue that's already on his American flag. The big turnoff for me here is just the face. The face is reusing the mouth expression Jeff has had all these years, but giving him a different eye expression, and it just looks rough. I'm usually all for new eye expressions, and I love how many we've been getting recently. Even Adam Rodriguez has a different face. Where is he? Even Adam Rodriguez has a different face. He leaked recently, and he has, like, in hand, and he has a different eye expression than the original. That's great. Jeff probably should stick to angry faces, because everything else looks weird with his mouth. I'm not the biggest fan of the Race and Rescue color scheme with this really... Sorry, the Race Rally color scheme. I love the Race and Rescue color scheme, but I'm not a big fan of the Race Rally 200 color scheme with this sort of dark navy blue and gray. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I don't know. I appreciate the characters included, and I like the characters so much that when I'm not the biggest fan of a diecast, I'll let it slip. The inclusion of these characters makes me excited enough, honestly. Jackson here is one I'm less excited about. I will say, for a very, very long time, I feel Mattel struggled to make good Jackson variants for the expanded universe, and this is not one of those times. GRC Jackson is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, variants of the character ever made, and Race Rally variant is once again pretty solid. I don't really know what to add. Like I said with Cruz, he feels kind of derivative of his GRC variant, but I do appreciate him being there. I really like these kind of red highlights. I like the silver on the back. At the end of the day, he's kind of just another Jackson to me, but I am happy to see that the Jacksons all around have been getting better. This, the Glow Racer GRC, they're really killing it with the Jacksons recently. Okay, so we then move into 2-packs. Nothing all that interesting here. Towing Mater and Cactus McQueen, that's a re-release. Bling Bling McQueen and Tex Dinoco. Wish it were regular Dinoco McQueen, it's been 10 years. Sage Vanderspin and Darren Leadfoot was one we didn't know about, but we had heard rumors of. Just 2 more Cars on Pissing Up racers, nice to see him back. Masha getting a re-release in a 2-pack with Megan Shifter is super cool. I'm sure this one will probably sell pretty well. I appreciate having 2 ways to get her, but I think maybe we should have gotten Brush Kerber in the 2-pack instead, or maybe we should have gotten him in a single. I'm not going to complain that much, though, because Brush was just out for 2024. So, yeah, good to see Megan again, so you can kind of complete that set. For Cars 3, we have Nick Shift and Barry DePedal. Nick Shift is a solid re-release. Barry is not. He's out like every year, but I appreciate Nick being back. Dirt Track Fabulous Hudson Hornet and Clovis Rider, once again, just like Joe Don Jackson, and Slim Hood, a more obscure flashback racer, coming back. And Eric Breaker and Rich Mixon is the definition of a boring next-gen 2-pack. Please stop making Eric Breaker... There's like one employee at Mattel who has like this unhealthy obsession with Eric Breaker. One day, like some big cars YouTuber is going to be able to tour the Mattel office. And they're going to be like, oh, what's over there? Oh, don't go over there. Why not? That's our shrine to Eric Breaker. For Cars on the Road, we just have 2 of the 2-packs from last year re-released. Perfectly fine. I don't know, I'd prefer something different, but it's good if you missed them last time. Kabuto and Dragon McQueen are back. Specifically, this is 2023 Kabuto with Flames. Perfectly fine. I appreciate Mater, Kabuto, and McQueen all being out from Tokyo Mater. They were weirdly missing last year where we only had Yokoza and Komodo and Manji. We then move into the GRC, featuring this 2-pack re-release from last year, and also this one. This is the exact same as the 2-pack last year, except they swapped out Jackson with Raul, and, I don't mind. I'm happy that, unlike last year, you see, last year we had these 2 GRC 2-packs. We had this one, and then again, Jackson and Miguel. And all 4 of those cars were also out as singles, and that was frustrating to me. So I appreciate that this year, Shu and Miguel aren't out as singles, they're only out in the 2-packs. And then we move on to the 3 Race and Rescue 2-packs, which are all shockingly stellar, and all of them include at least 1 new release, with one of them including 2. Again, guys, they went all out for this line. We have a 2-pack of the Race Rally variant of McQueen and Chick. As soon as I heard that we'd be getting 2 McQueens for this line, the Race one and the Rescue one, I was very intrigued to see how they would incorporate him in two different ways, and I think having him in a two-pack makes sense. Not the biggest fan of this McQueen almost being weirdly monochrome except for the red, the gray, and the navy blue. I don't know. I don't know. It's unique and it's different, but I'm not the biggest fan of that. I don't think gray is a good accent color most of the time. We then move into Sheriff and Adam Rodriguez. Adam, of course, being a variant of a background fire truck that appeared in both Cars 3 and Cars on the Road. Welcome back, Adam. He's one that honestly doesn't look all that different from his normal variant, and the same is true for Sheriff, but that makes sense for these two. Adam has a different light bar color, some more yellow on him, and the logo and all that. Sheriff looks pretty good. I wish he had a bit of a more different expression. Actually, I believe he does. I know he's leaked physically. I forget what he looked like in those images. But I do believe he had a slightly different face, and I think that is going to make him look even better here. Because right now he does just kind of look like a Sheriff that they added some logos to. Probably because this is a photoshopped image of Sheriff that they just added some logos to. Sheriff, much like Red, is a car that didn't really need many visual updates for this line. So he's fine. I appreciate him being here. How could he not be? And finally, we have my low battery warning again. Please stop. And finally, we have Cruz and Danny. I always like getting a new Danny. Appreciate a new Danny. Probably my favorite of the next gens with speaking lines, and the only one that I feel like kind of deserves all the variants. So many next gens get so many variants. Danny, at the very least, has a bit more screen time than some of the other ones, and also has one of the best lines in Cars 3. Name's Danny Bro. Certified classic piece of dialogue there. Seeing Danny is nice. It's nice to have him back. I know a lot of people were hoping for regular Danny to come back at some point soon. Much like Cal, quite frankly. Having him here is alright. I appreciate him being there. I'm not the biggest fan of him reusing the NASCAR number instead of the number 19. I think that was honestly kind of an odd choice. The NASCAR line is like a crossover line, making all these weird, like kind of non-canon-ish cars based on real racers and special designs and stuff. And so I'm not the biggest fan of giving Danny the NASCAR number on a like more canon release. You know, like the NASCAR line is like I said, it's like a crossover, and they updated all the numbers. I don't really like that, but I mean, it's fine. I mean, I don't think they did it as a reference to the NASCAR line. I think they just did it because they wanted to make a new Danny, and you know, it's part of a new story, and they decided to just give him the number his racer currently has, which I think on some level makes sense, though I would have preferred if he kept that Cars 3 number. We'll have to see if in the future they continue to do that. I honestly doubt they will. I feel like it's kind of a one-time thing. Like, I doubt the next time we get a random new Chase variant, he'll have, you know, the number of the NASCAR one. I mean, we already got the Glow Racers of Chase and Ryan last year, and they didn't do that. So I feel like this is kind of half intentional choice, half weird inconsistency. But there we have it, guys, the 2025 Cars Diecast line. This is a pretty solid year, in my opinion. It's a step up from 2024 because it has just such great re-releases. 2024 had really good new releases, but really weak re-releases. This year has, in my opinion, some of the best re-releases I think we've ever seen in the Cars Diecast line, in all honesty, and also has a lot of fun new releases. While I wish we would get more movie items and even some more Cars on the Road stuff, Race and Rescue absolutely knocked it out of the park. I feel like I can't complain, because this is probably the best expanded universe line we've ever gotten. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like this year is going to have some interesting reactions from people. I feel like it doesn't fix a lot of my major issues with the Cars Diecast line right now, that being the lack of movie releases, the lack of representation for a lot of Cars properties, Cars 2 and 3 barely having any releases. Like, even Cars 3 is barely getting stuff now, which is wild to me. You know, so, I mean, another big problem, while so many re-releases are good, there are also quite a few that just keep coming back, and I just don't think it's necessary to see Otis or Donna Pitts again, you know, or some of the next gens. But regardless, I can look past that and say, I think this is a pretty solid year that I'm excited to keep collecting, and I'm also very excited to see what the future holds. Anyway, guys, those have just been my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours, so let me know what you think of these items down in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Bye now.